Tensions mounting. 2 Iranian warships sail through the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean. Amateur video shows Syrian security forces opening fire on a large protest against President Bashar al-Assad in Damascus. China's central bank moves to reduce the reserve requirement ratio as it tries to boost lending. And China's hurdling hero Liu Xiang begins the Olympic year by beating arch-rival Darren Roberts to win the men's 60 meters in Birmingham. Hello there, welcome to CCTV News. I'm Pan Deng in Beijing. 2 Iranian warships have sailed through the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean. The move is likely to be closely monitored by Israel. A destroyer and a supply ship crossed through the canal with Egypt's permission. The 2 ships now could be on their way to the Syrian coast. Syria is the only country with a naval agreement with Tehran. Both countries are staunch enemies of Israel. At the same time last year, 2 Iranian warships made a similar journey, a move Israel called a political provocation. Until last year, Iranian warships were not permitted to use the strategic waterway. Israeli Deputy Prime Minister Ehud Barak has urged the international community to step up sanctions against Iran before it establishes nuclear weapon capabilities. Barak, who also serves as Israeli Defense Minister, made remarks during his 5-day visit to Japan.
There is a consensus, at least in the West and North America, that no option should be removed off the table in regard to dealing with this threat. We feel the same. We feel that still the time is still a time for even more tight, ratcheted up sanctions against Iran, to include not just sanctions against the export of oil, but also sanctions against the central bank and the access to the financial clearing systems of the international financial world, and that this should be done determinedly and in a conclusive manner and urgently.
32 defendants have gone on trial in Tehran's Revolutionary Court on bank embezzlement charges involving $2.6 billion. The case is the biggest financial fraud in Iran's history. The charges involve the use of forged documents to get credit at one of Iran's top financial institutions to purchase assets, including major state-owned companies. Iran's judiciary have not given the full names of the accused. If convicted, the accusation carries the death penalty. China urges Syria's government and the political factions to end all acts of violence against civilians. This is the message delivered by China's special envoy to Syria, the Vice Foreign Minister Zhai Jun. He is said to have met Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Zhai Jun has reaffirmed that China backs President Bashar al-Assad's plan for a referendum on a new constitution and multi-party elections. Liu Wenwen has more.
A call for peace. That is the message Special Envoy to Syria Zhai Jun gave to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Meeting in Damascus on Saturday, Zhai Jun made clear that China's position regarding the ongoing crisis in Syria. He warned that China is closely following the development and is deeply concerned by the escalating violence. After the meeting, the Vice Foreign Minister told reporters that China calls on Syria to restore stability and normal social order in line with the fundamental interests of the Syrian people.
Only in an environment of stability can a comprehensive political reform plan be implemented and the development of Syria and the well-being of its people be achieved. China urges all parties concerned in Syria to jointly discuss a comprehensive political reform plan and mechanism. China adopts an objective and just stance on the issue of Syria. We hope Syria can smoothly conduct a referendum on the draft of a new constitution and parliamentary elections and achieve reform, development and the well-being of the Syrian people in an environment of stability.
The special envoy is on a 2-day visit to Damascus. His trip comes just 1 day after the UN General Assembly passed a non-binding resolution calling for Bashar al-Assad to step down. 137 voted for the resolution, 17 countries abstained, and 12 countries, including China and Russia, voted against the measure. Their stand follows their recent veto of a similar resolution at the Security Council. As of early January, the 11-month crackdown had killed more than 5,400 people, according to the UN. The UN and other observers say the government is responsible for most civilian deaths, but the Syrian government on Saturday blamed the turmoil as a ploy by the Western-backed opposition to split the country. Liu Wenwen, CCTV.
Amateur video footage has emerged showing Syrian security forces firing on a large protest against President Bashar al-Assad in Damascus on Saturday. The shooting took place at the funerals of 3 youths killed on Friday in an anti-Assad demonstration that was one of the biggest in the capital so far. Witnesses said up to 30,000 demonstrators had taken to the streets in Mazis district near the headquarters of the ruling Ba'ath Party. The opposition said gunfire near the cemetery had killed 1 mourner and wounded 4. Chinese Vice President Xi Jinping has arrived in the Irish city of Shannon for a 3-day visit to the country. In a written statement, Xi Jinping says his visit aims to strengthen bilateral ties. He said Ireland has accomplished the transition from being an agriculture-based economy to a knowledge-based one and plays an important role in both the Eurozone and international community. He added that over the past 33 years, since China and Ireland established diplomatic ties, relations have progressed smoothly on the basis of mutual respect, setting an example of friendly coexistence. Xi Jinping is scheduled to meet Irish President Michael Higgins and hold talks with Prime Minister Enda Kennedy. Xi Jinping is also expected to meet members of Ireland's business community. His trip comes as Ireland still suffers from the effects of the global economic crisis. As Richard Bastick finds out, people in Ireland have high expectations for cooperation with China.
Ireland is looking east, with the visit by the Vice President of the world's second-largest economy seen as a huge opportunity for this tiny trading nation. The people here suffered badly in the financial crash, a European Union bailout loan needed to stave off economic collapse.
This building here has come to epitomise what they now see in Ireland as the end of the Celtic Tiger. Those few brief years when the Irish economy roared.
Owned by one of the country's leading banks, it ran out of money for this grand project before the work was finished, and 5 years later it's still the subject of legal wrangling. Of course, Ireland's people have known difficult times before.
In the middle of the 19th century, there was a terrible famine here. More than 1 million people starved to death. Another million emigrated west to what was then a newly emerging power, the United States of America.
They sailed in ships like these, the Jeannie Johnson, a journey fraught with danger. In 1 year alone, 50,000 died at sea. Today, a new Ireland tempts overseas investors like China with tax breaks and Ireland's key trading advantages, what financial advisors here see as an educated English-speaking nation inside the Eurozone trading bloc.
It has to be said there's very strong government encouragement and there's a strong pro-business environment in Ireland, particularly for foreign investment. I think foreign investors would frequently say that they're amazed at how welcome they're made feel and how supportive Ireland is of foreign investment. We see an opportunity for Chinese companies to come to Ireland and use Ireland to get access to the entire European Union, just as many of the big US multinational companies have done.
While political leaders here are also eager to discuss investment possibilities with Vice President Xi Jinping.
This is a very important political visit, it's a very important diplomatic visit, it's also a very important trade visit. We would like to see Chinese companies taking an interest in investing in Ireland and through Ireland accessing the European Union market.
A joint venture most here believe would bring future benefits for both the Celtic Tiger and the Chinese dragon. Richard Bestick, CCTV, Ireland.
Japanese Finance Minister Jun Azumi is in Beijing for a two-day visit. He's expected to meet Chinese Vice Premier Wang Qishan and Finance Minister Xie Xuren. They will exchange views on bilateral financial cooperation and work on deepening Sino-Japanese ties amid the unstable global economy. Xie Xiusi reports.
The Japanese finance minister comes bearing a promise to purchase up to $10 billion worth of Chinese government bonds. China, on the other hand, has been actively investing in Japanese government bonds in recent years, parking its foreign exchange reserves, the biggest in the world, into yen-formed dollar. It's a risk-averse move amid a worsening European debt crisis. The chief representative from the Economist Group in China says it's a natural step for Japan to take as it realizes the global importance of the Chinese currency.
Japan has recognized the significance for Chinese currency to be a global currency, and in the long run, rivaling currencies such like US dollar, Japanese yen, and the euro. And Japan wants to be part of that. And Japan is not the only country doing that. China has signed a bilateral agreement with at least 10 countries in terms of so-called swap agreement. And I think this is a natural step for Japan to take this.
Japan's presence in the Chinese debt market is being seen as a symbolic move, showing confidence in China's economy.
It is symbolic for developed economies for the first time and first country to hold the RMB-denominated assets. So, and this will send a very strong signal to the world economies. Japan has confidence in Chinese economy, in Chinese RMB.
China overtook the U.S. to become Japan's biggest export destination, and since 2006 has been its #1 trading partner. And the yuan's position in regional trade is expected to rise.
But as RMB is becoming more internationalized and more international trade, particularly, I think, regional trade will be dominated by RMB. I think that's going to be a medium-term story.
The bulk of trade between the world's second largest and third largest economies is currently settled in US dollars and euros. Using yuan as the settlement currency will bring new benefits.
The more benefit, I think, both for China and the trading partners is that they are going to substantially reduce the exposure in the currency fluctuation.
2012 also marks the 40th anniversary of normalization of Sino-Japanese ties. Experts believe that Jun Azumi's weekend stay here in China will help the two nations to reinforce economic relationship, and by encouraging more direct exchange of yuan and yen, will help to lower currency risks and settlement costs when it comes to bilateral trade between the two countries. Xie Cisi, CCTV, Beijing.
China's central bank says it will reduce the reserve requirement ratio in a bid to increase lending and ease the short-term credit crunch. It also hopes the move will secure growth as external demand weakens. The cut is the second of its kind in 3 months. It will cut the ratio by 50 basis points to 20.5% for large commercial banks and 17% for medium and small-sized banks. The move will become effective next Friday. The move will release an estimated 400 billion yuan in capital into the market. In December, the central bank cut the reserve requirement ratio by 50 basis points for the first time in 3 years to check inflation. It's been a year since Beijing introduced a limit on numbers of properties people can own. The policy was managed to cap soaring housing prices, but it's now raising questions over how long it should be continued. Guan Yuan reports.
High rises and high prices. China has taken steps since last year to help rein in the surging market. Buying restrictions targeting people in Beijing are considered the most effective measures.
Those houses which are bought but not occupied can be taxed. Surely the price will drop.
All we want is simple. People can afford to buy homes what they need to.
Although home purchasing restrictions in Beijing have driven down prices, that's not the whole story.
Compared with 2010, we've experienced major overstocked properties, whether new or second-hand. Also, the total sales volume of properties in Beijing dropped almost 45%.
And I think